Hello my dear students, welcome back to my channel. How are you all of you? I hope all of you are preparing for your NEET exam very well, which is not even 1 month away. So in this session, I'll be continuing with that of my last session, that is chemiosmosis. So this chemiosmosis theory, let us start with first who proposed. Chemiosmosis theory was proposed by Peter Michel. He proposed this theory both in case of chloroplast as well as in mitochondria. So this theory mainly depends upon the proton gradient across the membrane. Whatever proton gradient is established across the membrane. Now let us see what is the meaning of the proton gradient. The meaning of proton gradient is the difference in proton concentration on either side of the membrane. Proton gradient is difference in proton concentration on either side of membrane. It can be any membrane. It can be a chloroplast membrane or it can be a membrane of mitochondria. So when difference in proton concentration is established, that results in the increase in proton concentration on one side and decrease on the other side. So this creates a force called as proton motive force, PMF, or we can call it as proton motive force. So due to this proton motive force, the protons tend to move towards the other side across the membrane wherever the proton concentration is lower. So during this movement, some energy is released. That energy is used for synthesis of ATP. This is what is called as a chemiosmotic theory. Now we will discuss with respect to, in case of chloroplast, how is the synthesis of ATP taking place with the help of this mechanism. So first of all, we discuss the requirement for this mechanism to operate is a proton gradient must be established. So proton gradient is established due to three different ways. One is called as due to splitting of water, first one. The second is due to Q cycle or quinone cycle. And the third is reduction of NADP+. So in the last session, in non-cyclic electron transport, we discussed what is the meaning of all these three. So how all these three are resulting in proton gradient. That is what is the chemiosmotic theory. First, if we take splitting of water. In brief, suppose I give you, this is the membrane. This is the lumen side of thylakoid membrane and this side it is the stroma side of thylakoid membrane. Let us go into these reasons one by one. Splitting of water takes place on the lumen side. So here one water molecule, when it undergoes splitting, it releases 2 protons, 2 electrons plus oxygen. So these 2 protons remain within the lumen. These electrons will circulate, participate in electron transport system. Now that is the source due to splitting of water. Now second source is due to quinone cycle. So what is this Q cycle or quinone cycle? So here when the first primary acceptor of P680, that is P680 is photosystem 2. So here primary acceptor is pheophytin. From pheophytin, the electrons will move to plastoquinone. So here plastoquinone is not just an electron carrier, it is considered to be a proton carrier also. It helps in transport of protons because it takes protons from stroma region, 2 protons from stroma region, and this gets completely reduced to PQH2, that is plastoquinol, and during its oxidation it leaves 2 protons in the lumen region. Again it goes back to the normal state, that is plastoquinone. So due to quinone cycle, there are 2 protons accumulating in lumen, and due to splitting of water there is 2 protons. That means first 2 methods, splitting of water and quinone cycle, they are increasing proton concentration in the lumen region. Now the third one is reduction of NADP+. So NADP+ gets reduced due to movement of electrons. So the electrons start moving from second complex, then through quinone cycle, and then it moves through cytochrome B6 and F complex, and then to plastocyanin, and then to photosystem 1 PS1, and then finally through ferredoxin the electrons are accepted by NADP+. So NADP+ accepts 2 electrons from ferredoxin. That is the last step in non-cyclic electron transport. So when it accepts 2 electrons, it also takes 2 protons from the stroma region. That means it is decreasing the protons in the stroma region by getting reduced. Similarly, plastoquinone also is decreasing the proton concentration in the stroma region by getting reduced. And the same protons are transferred to lumen region. So lumen region, the proton concentration is increasing, and in the stroma region the proton concentration is decreasing. So this results in proton concentration gradient, that is more protons towards lumen and less towards the other side. Now this proton gradient has to be broken. It should be broken. That means the protons which are present more in concentration in lumen region, they must be passed on to the other side. That means towards the stroma side. The protons cannot move on their own. They just cannot diffuse through the membrane. So therefore they require the help of another factor which is called as a ATP synthase or synthetase. ATP synthase or synthetase. This is located on the membrane side. This has 2 parts. In the earlier diagram I gave you, this has 2 parts. CF0 part and CF1. So ATP synthase has 2 parts. The first part is called as CF0. CF stands for coupling factor. So this CF0 is called as a transmembrane proton channel. Transmembrane proton channel. Transmembrane means it remains embedded within the thylakoid membrane. So it is called transmembrane proton channel. The protons which are accumulated in lumen, they must pass through this CF0. This is also called facilitated diffusion. Facilitated diffusion. It is a passive process and it is called as a facilitated diffusion. Now, the protons through CF0, they pass through the complex CF0 and these protons will reach the stroma site. And CF1 is actual site for ATP synthesis. It is the site for ATP synthesis. It is second part of ATP synthetase enzyme, which is ATP synthase it is called, because it is a site for ATP synthesis. When protons are moving through CF0, some energy is liberated. That energy, it rotates this CF0 CF1 complex, and during that process, that means rotation means there is a change in conformation. Change in conformation means there is a rotation of this ATP synthase CF0 CF1, and during that rotation the energy is released again. That energy is utilized for synthesis of ATP. ATP is synthesized from ADP and inorganic phosphate. So, this ATP synthase enzyme, I'll repeat, it has 2 parts. One is called CF0 transmembrane proton channel, which helps in facilitated diffusion of protons. So protons from lumen region, they pass through the stroma region. When they pass towards the stroma region, they release some energy. That energy rotates this complex. And during that rotation, the energy which is released, that helps in synthesis of ATP. So CF1 is site for ATP synthesis. This is how the breaking of proton gradient results in synthesis of ATP. So there are 4 requirements to operate. So I'll give you a diagrammatically also, which is given. So here we can find this is the lumen region, in the lumen, and here we find photosystem 2, and here in we can see within the lumen we find there is a splitting of water, that is 2 protons, 2 electrons and oxygen. So this is a source of protons, and the electrons which are passing through this, and these electrons which are passing through this, they are finally given to plastoquinone, which accepts 2 protons here, and then it gets completely reduced and again goes back, and this also releases protons. So through splitting of water and through plastoquinone, the protons are released, which is increasing the concentration in the lumen region. And these protons are then, through this ATP synthase, they are passed on towards the stroma side. So this is how. And finally, the protons which taken from stroma also help in reduction of NADPH. So this is how the establishment of proton gradient results in synthesis of ATP. So this requires 4 factors. There are 4 important factors which are required for chemiosmosis to operate, which we find in the chloroplast. So what are the requirements? Requirements for chemiosmosis. So first requirement is presence of a membrane. So what is the membrane here? Thylakoid membrane. So we have a thylakoid membrane. Second requirement is proton gradient. So we have just discussed there are 3 ways how proton gradient is established and how it can be broken also. The third requirement is a proton pump. A proton pump is one which is increasing the proton concentration, which is causing the proton gradient. So this proton pump is plastoquinone. We know plastoquinone is taking protons from stroma region. It helps in transport of protons from stroma. The protons are transported towards the lumen. So in the process, this is getting converted to PQH2. I already told you PQH2 is plastoquinol, reduced form. This is called as a plastoquinol. So proton pump, this we can call it as a proton pump. And the fourth requirement is ATP synthase. ATP synthase is required for breaking the proton gradient. Establishment of proton gradient is important, and then breaking of proton gradient also. So once the proton gradient is broken, that releases some energy that helps in synthesis of ATP. So already as we discussed, ATP synthase has 2 parts, CF0 and CF1. The CF0 is a transmembrane proton channel. It is called transmembrane proton channel, which helps in transport of protons. And CF1 is the actual site for ATP synthesis. So this type of ATP synthesis, which is taking place during the light phase of photosynthesis, this is called as photophosphorylation. This is called as a photophosphorylation. Photophosphorylation is synthesis of ATP during light phase, and when it is taking place during non-cyclic electron transport, we call it as non-cyclic photophosphorylation. We call it as non-cyclic photophosphorylation. So, as a result of non-cyclic photophosphorylation, we can write the products now. What are the products formed during non-cyclic photophosphorylation? Let's write the products of non-cyclic photophosphorylation. So, during this process, we find there is a formation of ATP and NADPH2 or NADPH, H plus also it is called, or we can write it as NADPH2. These are the main products. Now, how many are formed? What is their number? We will calculate the number with respect to one water molecule. And overall reaction, we have 12 water molecules. So, here we will calculate with respect to one water molecule. So, when we calculate with respect to one water molecule, we find 2 ATP are formed and 1 NADPH2. These are the products formed for one water molecule, 2 ATP and 1 NADPH2. So, we have 12 water molecules. So, the overall reaction of photosynthesis, 12 water molecules participate. So, for 12 water molecules, we have 24 ATP and 12 NADPH2. But all 24 ATP are not required for dark reaction. For dark reaction, out of 24, only 18 ATP are taken and all 12 NADH2. So, for dark reaction, 18 ATP and 12 NADPH2 are taken. This is the requirement for dark reaction. So, whatever remaining ATP, they are utilized for any other physiological process. So, what is requirement for dark reaction is 18 ATP, 12 NADPH2. This is required for synthesis of one glucose molecule. So, for non-cyclic photophosphorylation, these are the products which are formed. So, with this I complete what is non-cyclic electron transport, non-cyclic photophosphorylation and chemiosmosis. And in my next session, I will discuss about cyclic electron transport and cyclic photophosphorylation. Later, we will do what is the difference between the two, cyclic and non-cyclic electron transport. So, with this I conclude my session, children. Have a good day. If you are not yet subscribed, please subscribe my channel so that you will be getting the notifications first for all my videos. So, thank you so much. Have a good day.